Ever played Plants vs. Zombies and wondered how our tiny flora friends manage to keep the horde at bay? Think about it. What's a couple of twigs going to do against an opponent with opposable thumbs and the ability to walk? Well, from the looks of the plants on this list, Mother Nature has plenty of weapons of mass destruction in her arsenal.
Enzymes begin to dissolve the victim's body while it's still alive.
From causing stings similar to a wasp's to straight up burns.
And it's painful for about, I would say, at least 3 days. Pig hunting dogs dying from the stuff when they've run into it.
These plants aren't messing around. Number 15 is bound to make you never want to go outside again. Come what may, Hell's Garden is here to slay.
Super fucking evil GYMPIE plant.
Number 15, GYMPIE. Starting off strong, let's talk about GYMPIE. They're known as Dendrocnide morites to the science lovers, but they've also been affectionately nicknamed the suicide plant.
Okay, touching the world's most painful plant. Oh, gotta do it. Ah, okay, that stings.
And let us tell you, the GYMPIE is basically what Satan would be like if he was a plant. This plant comes with its own warning label. Stay the heck away! If you happen to be one of the unfortunate souls who come into contact with it, seek immediate medical attention. Equipped with thousands of hypodermic needle-like spikes on every available surface, this monstrosity delivers a cocktail of neurotoxins upon piercing your flesh.
Beneath of the plant.
Okay, show me your hand now.
And it is a little quite painful. So this is after about 10 minutes. Comes up fairly red.
The most potent and stable among these, GYMPIE. Getting stung by this plant will hurt just as much as getting stung by a wasp, and setting the area on fire afterwards. No wonder they liken it to cone snail venom. Ouch! And as if that wasn't enough, the toxin cocktail not only activates your pain receptors, but also prevents them from turning off. Seriously, who comes up with these torture methods? 'Cause we need to talk. If you think that's it, you're dead wrong. Just like the one poor officer who used the leaves as toilet paper. Yikes! But that aside, let's walk you through a scenario where you accidentally touch one of these. It takes 20 to 30 minutes to reach peak pain levels with this plant's toxins, and you're in for a world of hurt afterwards too. And don't even think about washing the spikes out. Don't trust us? Take the backyard scientist's word for it.
Did you feel it?
I felt the spike.
All right, let me.
Oh my god! Oh my god, it immediately hurt!
Washing the area will only worsen the pain. Changes in temperature, touching the area, and attempting to dig the spikes out also intensifies your agony, so leave it alone. And you know what they say, in for a good time, not a long time? Yeah, GYMPIE is a plant. It doesn't know what this means. The spikes stay for a long time and cause chronic pain. The longest time frame given is 2 years. Good luck explaining to people why you haven't showered for that long. All things considered, you do well to stay as far away from this plant as God allows you to. Considering we still haven't discovered a cure for the toxins, it's the GYMPIE's victory. GG, evil plant. Well played.
Might as well call this stuff here pure evil.
Number 14, tree nettle. Like its distant bloodthirsty cousin GYMPIE, Urtica dioica, also known as tree nettle to our fellow laymen out there, is also quite far from being an innocent, harmless plant. This New Zealand bush has a very simple philosophy for living. Stab, stab, and stab some more. Jack the Ripper would be proud. Tree nettle is also covered with microscopic silica spikes, which function as hypodermic needles to inject toxins into your body upon contact. Their drug of choice? Serotonin hits you where it hurts, your pain receptors. Histamine causes local swelling and a rash. And lastly, formic acid causes a stinging, burning sensation. Did no one tell these plants chemical warfare is illegal? Tree nettle has a stopgap measure in place. These plants have a small ball on top of the spikes, which prevents outright carnage upon simple contact. These plants are sadistic in other ways, though. They prey on the allergic. To the ordinary person, getting stung by nettle would cause a burning sensation followed by a rash and local inflammation. No big deal. Everything's done and over with within a day or two, 3 at most. But to those with allergies, may God be with you, because things get ugly. From nausea and vomiting to difficulty breathing and fainting spells, everything's on the table. A severe allergic reaction to the nettle's toxins can prove to be fatal if immediate medical assistance isn't provided. Natural selection at its worst. Jeez. If you happen to find yourself stung by these demonic plants, luckily just washing the area with soap and water should help. Until then, make like a butterfly and float far, far away from these crazed, stabby weeds.
In this video, we're going to be talking about the toxic Jimson weed.
Number 13, Jimson weed. Up next is Jimson weed, fondly called mad apple due to its pods resembling an apple and also because it's a potent hallucinogenic. If you thought apples were supposed to keep doctors away from you, you have another thing coming. Every part of this plant is poisonous, from stems to leaves, and yes, even the flowers. Small wonder they're part of the belladonna alkaloid family. These aggressive, invasive, and hardy weeds grow all over the world and are frequently used by teens looking for a cheap psychedelic trip.
Hyoscine, is my eyes dilated yet?
But those poor kids find out too late that they have bit off more than they should have. Around 15 to 100 grams of the Jimson weed's leaves can kill you, while only 25 grams of the seeds are needed for the same job. Yes, that's right. Just a few grams to have you as dead as a doorknob. The symptoms range from dry mouth, extreme thirst, nausea, vomiting, visual changes, and feverish states in mild poisoning cases to more serious effects like respiratory depression, hallucinations, which is basically a temporary state of insanity, seizures, loss of consciousness, coma, and death.
If you like gambling your life, or maybe even death, then this is probably the plant for you.
The main chemical compounds that are responsible for this weed's psychedelic effects are tropane alkaloids, which just so happen to be severely toxic as well. The leaves contain stramonium, which is a narcotic. Teens looking for cheap thrills aren't the only ones using these weeds, though. Some cultures use these weeds to go on a spiritual journey, which is frighteningly similar to tripping on acid. Others use it as an herbal alternative treatment for bronchial asthma. Our advice? Ditch the spiky forbidden fruit and stick to good old safe medicine. Number 12, castor bean plant. Do you like keeping exotic, ornamental plants in your garden? Is the castor plant one of your beloved countertop babies? Well, we hate to break it to you, but castor plants are licensed to kill. Seriously, these plants have zero chill. Ricinus communis, or the beautiful castor plant, has seed pods which are referred to as beans. These beans are capable of producing a substance called ricin, which is one of the deadliest natural poisons to occur.
Hailed as little as 22 micrograms of ricin per kilogram of body weight could be enough to kill you.
It's a whopping 6,000 times more poisonous than cyanide, and 12,000 times more poisonous than rattlesnake venom. Jeez, has this plant never heard of moderation? It takes around 22 micrograms per kilogram of the stuff to kill you if injected or inhaled. If ingested, the dose needs to be higher for it to be lethal, around 20 milligrams. That's roughly 8 castor beans. If a lethal dose of ricin enters your body, it can take 36 to 48 hours for you to die. The cascade of symptoms usually goes something like this: diarrhea, dehydration, multiple organ failure, internal bleeding, circulatory and respiratory shock, and finally, the sweet release of death. The toxin works by entering your cells and inactivating your ribosomes, which is a crucial mini-protein factory. A single molecule of ricin alone is capable of ruining 1,500 ribosomes per minute, which basically means it's mass death for your cells. Yikes! No wonder ricin was such a fan favorite among assassins back in the day. Its long duration of action till D-Day meant you could easily get miles away from the eventual crime scene. And considering there's no cure for ricin poisoning known to man, it'd be best to steer clear of this one. Make sure to check out the CDC guidelines for suspected ricin terrorism or exposure. It could literally save lives. Number 11, angel trumpet. Many people confuse Jimson weed with angel's trumpet. We suggest you stay away from both, so there's no real need to distinguish between them so far as poisoning is concerned. But if you're up for a game of spot the difference, here's the details. Apart from the differences in foliage and seed pods, the most strikingly obvious sign to tell the two apart would be the direction their flowers grow. If it's upward facing, as if looking to the heavens above, then it's Jimson weed, also known as the devil's trumpet. Downward facing, as if gazing into the depths of hell, then it's the angel's trumpet. Ironic, isn't it? But contrary to their name, angels' trumpets are downright insidious. They sway gently with the breeze, inviting passerbys to come take a whiff. These flowering plants contain the alkaloids atropine, scopolamine, and hyoscyamine. All parts are highly poisonous and can bring you to your knees. Once exposed, you go from experiencing a tingling sensation and visual blurring to dizziness, increased heart rate, pupillary dilation, and swaying. There's an initial sense of euphoria, and no, not the show, but a pleasant high with a sudden crash into an anxious, panicked state. We mean, they are called angel's trumpets, so maybe that's why you briefly go to heaven? Additionally, the scopolamine, also called burundanga, has psychoactive effects which can render you lifelessly easy to influence. There are cases each year in Colombia where criminals use burundanga to make their victims more docile and agreeable in a near zombie-like state. Seriously, this kind of stuff should stay in our nightmares. Number 10. Manchineel. The manchineel toxic tree comes equipped with its own warning signs. Hippomane mancinella, commonly known as manchineel, is dubbed the death apple tree for the potent poison found in all its parts, from the leaves, bark, and even the fruit.
The leaves from this tree looks like an apple tree, so a lot of visitors, foreigners, may think that it's farming to the apple, and if this is ingested, it's very, very poisonous, right? And to some cases, it may cause death.
It's native to the sandy beaches of the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico, and has beautiful, luscious foliage with sweet-scented fruits that beckon tourists regularly. But don't be fooled by its innocent appearance. The manchineel inflicts the kind of pain you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. It all begins when you come into contact with this tree, whether that's swimming in water directly under a manchineel, touching its bark, or even just seeking refuge under this tree on a rainy day. This tree will make you regret being born. Any insult to the manchineel results in a milky white exudate leaking, which we have to be honest with you, likely comes from Satan's backyard. The sap contains tigliane forbol esters, and contact with this compound generates a strong inflammatory reaction. This causes blisters, burns, and local inflammation similar to contact dermatitis. And the worst part? The fruits. It's always the apple lookalikes you've got to be careful of. Sheesh. Ingestion of the deceptively harmless, sweet-smelling and tasting fruits is potentially fatal. Within moments, your mouth and throat have countless painful blisters with swelling, restricting your airflow. Do not take this lightly. Seek medical attention immediately. If only petitioning could send this back to hell's backyard, that'd be great. Meanwhile, you'd better steer clear of these murderous trees. Number 9. Bitter nightshade. The name says it all. Nightshade. That could be an assassin's calling card. These toxic plants are life-threatening to not just you, but your pets and livestock as well. If you happen to find any, we suggest you make haste to burn it and return it to Satan ASAP. Solanum dulcamara, also known as scarlet berries, are basically fake cherry tomatoes. Seriously, they look exactly like the cute little poppers, as they're distantly related. These perennial vines are easy to identify, thankfully. With a distinct arrowhead leaf shape and clusters of bright orange to red berries, they'd be hard to miss. Their star-shaped violet flowers have protruding yellow bellies, think beer belly, and also make for easy spot identification. There's a little twist with the berries though. You know how in nature, the more colorful something is, the more likely it is to kill you? Yeah, that's not the case for the bitter nightshade berries. The unripe green berries are more lethal than the ripe red ones. These berries contain solanine and dulcamarine, both aimed to debilitate and kill whoever is foolish enough to munch on them. Solanine is a toxic glycoalkaloid and is also found in other members of the nightshade family, like potatoes. Dulcamarine is a glycoside similar in structure and properties to atropine, and you definitely want to avoid an overdose of this anticholinergic and antimuscarinic compound. Wonder why people used them to ward against witchcraft back in the day? Maybe you can't be hexed if you're on a one-way trip to meet your maker. Number 8. Yellow buttercup. Can plants please just stop burning us? As described earlier with the minchil tree, yellow buttercups, a pretty ranunculus species, are capable of causing extensive chemical burns to anything they deem a threat. Unfortunately, anything that moves and accidentally steps on it or picks the beguilingly beautiful yellow flowers is a threat. What kind of Powerpuff Girls reboot is this? We want a refund. These small, tuberous perennial flowering plants are a menace not only to you, but to your livestock and pets also. They have a sharp, pungent taste, so animals usually avoid them. But grazers can munch on these when desperation hits in the absence of other options. And pets? We all know dogs like to frolic and dig. These plants contain ranunculin, a compound which is hydrolyzed to protoanemonin when the plant is damaged. Think grazing, weeding, digging, or crushed underfoot when walking barefoot. The protoanemonin takes time to cause damage. Hours to days after contact, it causes blistering of the skin and mucous membranes in the mouth, throat, stomach, and intestines. Yikes! All from a pretty yellow flower. Number 7. Water hemlock. With delicate clusters of small white flowers, this plant is irresistible. Don't fall for it. Water hemlock, belonging to the Cicuta genus, is one of the most poisonous plants in the world. These plants grow along marshy, waterlogged areas such as banks of streams and meadows, and are often mistaken by unsuspecting hikers and campers to be wild carrots or parsnips due to their similarities. These plants contain a neurotoxic alkaloid, cicutoxin, which is a violent convulsant which acts at the junction between nerves and muscles. A very small dose of this toxin is able to cause respiratory failure, grand mal seizures, and eventual death. In sensitive people, simple contact with these plants can cause a severe allergic reaction called contact dermatitis. So steer clear of these deceptively beautiful plants. Number 6. Monkshood. We're entering the spooky category with this one, everyone. Aconitum napellus is also known as wolfbane, and is affectionately called monkshood due to its unique flower shape. This beautiful perennial flowering plant is a staple among many gardens due to its showy and colorful look and bee-friendly nature. But death lurks around the corner wherever these plants go.
I'm about to have a little snack here. Of course, if I did that, I'd be dead in a half an hour.
Monkshood contains potent cardiotoxic alkaloids which cause severe gastrointestinal side effects as well as, you guessed it, heart problems. Some swear these plants offer a good trip, but the only place most people touching or ingesting these go is 6 feet underground. These plants have quite a history, from being used in witches' potions to repel werewolves and by Viking berserkers looking for a good time in the middle of war. These plants have seen it all. If you're one of the people who grow these ornamental plants in your garden, beware of its dangers. Before we continue, make sure to like this video, click that subscribe button, and turn on notifications to stay updated with our releases. It's time to talk about today's subscriber pick. One of our lovely subscribers shared this picture with us, and if we're being honest, you had us stumped at first. We were racking our brains thinking of what plant exists out there with a weirdly inverted, umbrella-like, onion-looking head and a pod full of weird seeds, and we were drawing blanks. No mushroom we've seen or heard of looks like this. But then, upon closer inspection, we realized that this ain't no plant. This is what looks to be an old underground storage chamber. The perfectly smooth, cylindrical walls of the image on the left are what gave it away. Our guess? Someone somewhere just struck gold. That, or they found some eerily hidden spooky stuff and have unleashed a century-old curse upon the world. We think someone went digging in their backyard and unearthed some dangerous stuff, perhaps a bomb shelter. The image on the right is suspiciously like that of older bomb pods. But hey, what do you think? Remember to comment down below what you think could be stored inside the Forbidden Vault with the hashtag #subscriberpick and let us know. Now, let's dive back in to Hell's Garden. Number 5. Skunk Cabbage. We'll resume with a kinder plant this time. The Symplocarpus fotitis, or skunk cabbage, gets its name from the stinky odor it produces to attract pollinators. It's a fascinating plant, both to look at and in how it operates. These small and pretty purple plants are found only in wetlands and are the first pollinators after winter. They use a process called thermogenesis to generate heat, which adds to the cozy vibe that insects love. These plants look like tiny caves, perfect for both bees looking for some pollen and shelter, as well as their natural predators waiting to ambush them. So technically, these plants can kill. Being an accomplice to spiders murdering bees is still murder, after all. But while some say this plant is edible, we advise against it. It contains calcium oxalate, which causes burning and inflammation upon contact with your skin and your mouth. Besides, they aren't called skunk cabbages for nothing. These smell and taste horrible. Who'd want to put something that gross in their mouth? We'd rather die. Number 4. Oleander. Oleander, from the genus Nerium, is a beautiful flowering plant that is often used as an ornamental in most gardens. Oleander flowers have what is called an apocarpose condition, where they contain more than one separated carpel. These flowers smell deliciously sweet, inviting both pollinators and humans to come take a whiff. But proud owners of this plant should beware. Every part of the oleander is poisonous. These plants come with cardiotoxic glycosides like oleandrin and nerine. The former is found predominantly in the sap, so you'd best be careful while handling this plant. Symptoms of oleander poisoning include, but are not limited to, gastrointestinal distress, erratic pulse, seizures, coma, and death. These toxins are so potent that just by ingesting the plant, oleander caterpillars become poisonous. What's more, there are cases where people get poisoned simply by eating honey made by bees who visited the oleander flowers. Yikes! Why do we insist on attempting to tame Mother Nature's fury? Luckily, the plant is incredibly bitter, which deters people and animals from eating it, so oleander poisoning cases are rare. Gotta count our blessings where we can. Number 3. Wild Lantana. The wild lantana is, just as its name implies, well and truly wild. Originally introduced as an ornamental plant in the 1840s, the large flowering shrub soon escaped the confines of the garden walls and explosively spread everywhere in Central and South America, even going as far as to naturalize in Australia. These plants are extremely hostile to the local shrubbery and plant species, smothering the competition ruthlessly. That's not the only reason they belong on this list, though. These plants, aside from costing authorities millions in failed attempts to control them, and millions more in produce losses, pose a direct danger to life in general. They increase the fire intensity of an ecosystem by increasing the dry biomass available to start and maintain forest fires. The same fires devastate locals, leading to huge losses of property and lives. How terrifying! Additionally, these alkaloid-rich plants practically all but repulse grazers, leading to uncontrollable growth. In the unlikely event that they are eaten by animals, these plants cause photosensitivity, diarrhea, jaundice, and hepatitis. Young children have also died from eating the unripe fruits of this plant in the past. Our hot take? Send them back where they came from. It's gotta be either deportation or combustion for them. Number 2. Mountain laurel. With their characteristic gorgeous clusters of 10-pointed, star-like flowers, these ornamental plants are a sight to see. Too bad all parts of these plants are toxic. Dermatophyllum secundiflorum, or mountain laurel plants, are the state flowers of Pennsylvania and Connecticut. Locals tend to describe them as ankle breakers due to their dense, gnarly thickets being easy to trip on. Apart from the direct physical harm, these plants are also prepared for chemical warfare. Poisonous to humans and some other mammal species, these plants can irritate upon simple touch. Diterpene, their chosen weapon, is a grayonotoxin which binds to our cells' membranes and renders them unable to transport sodium in and out. This is especially hazardous in the heart, nerves, and muscles. It's estimated that only around 0.2 to 0.6 of your body weight in mountain laurel leaves is enough to poison you. Ingesting any part of this plant can wreak havoc upon your body, from increased salivation, intestinal pain, and vomiting for mild poisoning, to abnormal heart rate and rhythm, convulsions, coma, and death for severe cases. The seeds of this plant are particularly fascinating because they contain psychedelics and are known to be used for their magical properties. And just like oleander, the honey made from these plants isn't safe either. This causes what has been popularly dubbed the mad honey disease for its symptom profile. Best learn to recognize it so you can stay miles away. Number 1. PHYSALIS ALKEKENGI. Next up, the PHYSALIS ALKEKENGI, commonly known as the Chinese lantern. These plants are seemingly cute and harmless, but if you paid attention in the previous categories, you know better than to trust appearances. These vigorously spreading perennials grow to only around 75 centimeters and have erect stems with triangular ovate leaves. Their fruits are adorable to behold. Little orange paper lanterns hiding the fruit inside the calyxes. When the fruit is picked, the calyx dries out to leave behind a breathtaking lattice-work cage for the fruit, so it's often used as an ornamental dry flower. These fruits are harmless when ripe, but be cautious. Eating anything other than the ripe fruit is likely to kill you. Symptoms include headache, stomach pain, lower temperature, dilated pupils, vomiting, diarrhea, circulatory and respiratory depression, and death. This is due to the solanine and other solanide alkaloids these plants contain. Although these fruits are used for medicinal purposes by some owing to potential anti-inflammatory benefits, we suggest taking this information with a grain of salt. We already have over-the-counter anti-inflammatory medicines widely available in whatever form you prefer, so there's no need to put yourself at risk. Our verdict? Just use them as decor, not drugs. And that's our top picks for 15 plants that are likely to kill you. We're sure you'll never want to go outside ever again now. Let us know which plant scared you the most in the comments below.